Chaplain Brian Coyne. I'm the Division Chaplain for the 82nd Airborne Division. And right now I'm standing on the bank of the Waal River in Nijmegen, the Netherlands. And it was here 75 years ago as part of the drama of Operation Market Garden. So I want to tell you a story about a chaplain by the name of Delbert Kuehl. He was a regimental chaplain for the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne Division. Now, going back to England when they were waiting for the next mission, Captain Moffat Burris of India Company, commander, asked Chaplain, why don't you accompany us on the next mission? And Chaplain Keel said, because you haven't asked me. He said, consider yourself asked. And so that's how Chaplain Keel ended up with I Company of the 504th. They jumped in south of here and accomplished all of their initial D-Day objectives. But by the 20th, they were having serious problems. So if you remember, the whole mission was about the 82nd, the 101st, the 1st British Para, and the Polish Airborne Brigade would jump in simultaneously, follow on gliders, and they would take all the bridges and transportation networks so that the armor could roll up the road and just turn right into Germany and end the war. And so by the 20th, what had happened is that the armor was stalled here. The railroad bridge to my rear, beyond this new modern bridge, was not taken yet. There were Germans on this side of the river on the bridge, there were Germans on the other side holding that bridge. And the thought was if they could capture both ends simultaneously, they might get through. And it was urgent because the British and the Poles were up north in Arnhem and were surrounded and beginning to get slaughtered. And so the 504th came up to Nijmegen, and 2 companies were given the mission of crossing this river. Now, Chaplain Keel says that he wouldn't normally be on a mission like this, but as what he reported was if the men ever needed him, they were going to need him now. Because he thought when they heard the briefing, he said there probably wasn't a man in there who didn't think it was a suicide mission. And there also wasn't a man in there who would say that they weren't ready to accomplish it right then. And so imagine this. They are going to traverse this river in canvas collapsible boats. They didn't even have enough paddles for everyone. In fact, they had to use rifle butts to paddle those boats across this very swift moving river. In fact, this was dramatized in the movie A Bridge Too Far, if you've seen that. And so they bring down the boats and they launch them from here into the river. And the current is so swift and the muck on the bottom that some capsized and were pulled downstream before they even got started. They finally get in their boats and move across the river, and they were supposed to have a smoke screen provided by the tanks that were in support. But it was windy just like it is today, and almost immediately the smoke dissipated. And so they were taking fire from the north end of the bank, from the railroad bridge, and from the south end, and the German positions there. They reported that as they went across, the fire was so heavy it looked like it was raining because of all the splashes around them of the bullets landing. 49 men died at crossing this river. Over half the men were wounded who attempted it. Major Cook, the battalion commander, who Chaplain Keel accompanied in his boat, he was a Catholic man, and he continually recited part of the Hail Mary. Hail Mary, Mother of God, pray for us. He said it over and over. Chaplain Keel, for his part, just said a phrase out of the Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done, thy will be done, thy will be done. And Chaplain Keel says that he did not think, while he was in that river, that anyone was going to make it across. But make it across they did. They made it to the far end, and they were still under fire. They were exposed. They had to keep pushing on. Well, Chaplain Keel stayed there with the wounded and began ministering to them and treating their wounds. He was over one man who had 3 bullet holes in his stomach. And as he was treating him, a mortar round landed nearby and put shrapnel into Chaplain Keel's back and knocked him over. Chaplain Keel remarked how interesting it was that here was this man wounded, terribly wounded, but the first thing he thought of was Chaplain Keel. He said, "Oh, Chaplain, they got you too." And he said, "I'm fine." And he continued his job. Even when the command encouraged him to move on with the troops moving off the bank and get out of fire, he declined, saying, "My place is here with the men who need me most." Chaplain Delbert Kuehl, the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. He's one of our heroes of faith and the legacy that we continue as airborne chaplains. As he put himself in danger, but at the place where his paratroopers needed him most. And let us continue to live up to his example of service, bringing God to soldiers and soldiers to God. Chaplain Delbert Kuehl.